Welcome back, viewers. It's James Kalm, your half-assed report of the guy on the bike. And this is our first report in 2019. Got a special shout out to our viewers on the French Riviera, South Africa, and in Copenhagen. And I'm going to start out with a little editorial comment that I don't usually indulge in. As you know, I don't have a Patreon account. I don't ask or solicit funding or anything like that. If you want to give, that's fine. You can go to my website. But I did just want to give you people a heads up that there are things that are happening in the independent content providers and creators community that are becoming increasingly more and more disturbing. And there seems to be a big-time push by certain forces in the corporations and the IT world that are trying to shut down a lot of free thought. Hello. And he might not think that this would affect someone like me who's trying to avoid all the nasty craziness of political correctness and all that stuff, but art is basically about freedom and freedom of expression, and I just think we need to keep an eye out on what's happening and the people that are trying to suppress freedom and using a lot of very insidious and sinister means to do it. Okay, let's get back to the report. I'm going to take a little run in here to Shrine. And, hi Scott. I'm going to take a stroll through of an exhibition by Hak Vogrin. Don't waste your time looking at this painting. Git Ta Tha Mall and bye. I'll come in and do a quick kind of a sweep through the installation. Well, I was actually hanging out with some of my son's friends over the holidays, and one of them recommended that I come in and check out this show. It's titled Quatsi, circa 1980s. This is all Deca sign enamel on canvas, 40 by 30 inches. Well, as I said, I came in last week and I was looking at the show, and that was after I spoke with one of my young associates, and he recommended it. Then I came in and heard a little bit about the backstory. Okay, this is Death Officer with Green Ock, 1980s. A hardcore vegan and street smart punk, Hak Vogrin, 1920 to 2009, was a feminist decades before men were self-identifying as such. This is Birds with Ghost, also 1980s. He consciously rejected the art world and created vivid enamel paintings in relative obscurity, first in New York City's East Village neighborhood in the 1960s, and then later in Barnegat, New Jersey, depicting the issues closest to his heart. environmental destruction, pacifism, racism in America, economic disparity, animal rights, and female equality, all the artist's subjects exude a subtle tongue-in-cheek sense of humor and were executed with a forceful confidence and political determination. Okay. Well, I saw the show, and I just appreciated the directness of the approach. I like his palettes, and evidently he, guess he worked as a commercial artist. Is that what he did?
A background in illustration.
A background in illustration. Okay.
He was doing odd jobs and illustration work throughout the 60s and 70s before finding painting in the 80s.
And, well, I mentioned on a couple of previous videos that there seems to be a revival of interest in a lot of the stuff that was happening in the East Village back in the late 70s, early 80s. This is Red Auk with Man and Death. 36 by 24. I think this is probably my favorite piece in the show. And this is the title piece. Don't waste your time looking at this painting. Get to the mall and buy, buy, buy. Circa 1980s. This is 40 by 60. And, well, that's a diptych. And also, I think Hak was doing some, maybe unintentionally, but he was doing some kind of interesting things with the frames. Most of this is just these are simple slat frames, but I like the way that he kind of paints over sections. So as I was saying, I came in and I saw the work, and thinking about this in relationship to what was happening here in New York in the 1980s, I think you'd probably be able to put this into a little better context if you were looking at some of the Neo-Expressionists. So that would include the Germans, the Heftig painters, or the Neue Wilden. People like Rainer Fetting and maybe Baselitz. This piece kind of makes me think of Dubuffet a little bit. Skull with Bloody Hand, 30 by 40. And there was a whole crew of East Village Neo-Expressionists that were working as well. Not only the well-known ones like Jean-Michel Basquiat and Keith Haring, but, oh gosh, the list would go on forever. You Save Your Money, 1980s. We saw the David Vonorovich show. He would be one. Rick Prohl. You can see that Hak does have kind of a sense of having a subject and being able to present that in a very nice graphic way. This is Are You Immortal? And I also like his text. Are you immortal? Probably not, but our guns are. Crow with Skeleton, circa 1980s. Decusine and enamel on canvas, 36 by 24. The Yellow Table, 1980s, 30 by 40. I think this might be the most sweet, just straight ahead paintings. There's also an interesting backstory to how this exhibition came about. I'll just give you a kind of a brief version that I heard. I think Hak passed away about 10 years ago, and he was living in a little town that's, I guess, in southeastern New Jersey on the Barnegat Bay. It's titled 3-Penny Review. And I actually like his palette on this. One of Hak's friends, I guess, had some images on his cell phone and had been going around to various galleries here on the Lower East Side, and came in here to see if he could talk to Scott. And Allegra Laviola, the lady that was running Sergeant's Daughters, was here. And as you can imagine, a lot of people, a lot of dealers get approached by a lot of people all the time. This is One Man's Misery, 40 by 30. Anyway, she looked at some of the photos and decided that this was interesting and called Scott. Scott followed up. Turns out that Hak had something like 300 canvases that he'd created over this, I don't know, 20, 30, 40-year period. And I guess they were just stored in this little house there. This white, black, 1980s. Anyway, Scott was interested. Decided to put the show together. Now, as you know, if you've been watching for any period of time, you know that Shrine does a lot of outsider artwork. And I guess maybe one of the interesting questions that you could ask about Hak Vogrin is if this is outsider art, or is it just resistance art, radical art? And I would say if I was going to be using the criteria that Roger Cardinal has laid out, I would have to say that technically this is not outsider art. And I guess the reason I'd have to say that is that Hak obviously was trained. He'd probably studied art. He worked as a illustrator and doing other various things. I don't think he was mentally ill, although that's a question that you could probably ask about anyone in society. And even though they talk about him wanting to ignore the art market or the motivations that the art market kind of puts on an artist. One of the qualifications for real outsider art is that many of these artists actually hid the work, and well, partially just the fact that you can see that Hak took the time to put the slat frames on there. They probably have hangers on them. Maybe he showed them to his friends. Shows that he did, although maybe he wasn't pursuing the art market, he was interested in showing them life among the carnivores. Okay. We're going to wrap up looking at this. Marching with Extinction. So I wouldn't exactly call Hak an outsider artist, but I would call him a radical artist, maybe even a protest artist. And also I like his use of this Decasine enamel. I haven't been familiar with this medium, but I think he got a lot of mileage out of it. And it's got a great surface. James Kalm reporting on Hak Vogrin. Don't waste your time looking at this painting. Get to the mall and buy. Here at Shrine, 179 East Broadway. We're on the Bowery. We're going to run in quickly to Edlin. And we're going to make a brief run through of an exhibition. $15.61. Well, I got a late start today. And it's cold. It's actually after closing time. So, we're going to have to run through and make this quick. I think basically what we've got here are works by 4 different artists. This is Esther Pearl Watson. Title NASA Doesn't Seem to Understand This, 2018. It's aluminum foil glitter on panel. Well, I'm lucky because Andrew Edlin and his gallery also operate the Outsider Art Fair, and that opens next week, so I'm sure that they're going to be spending a little extra time here in the gallery. This is titled The Saucer Had a Car Engine, 2018, 16 by 16 inches. Well, I haven't seen Esther Pearl Watson's work before, but, and maybe we'll move a little faster. Okay, I can imagine they're probably titled with this little text here. Garland, Texas, 1985, thanks for the pickup. Okay, so Esther's actually got kind of a nice, naive sense of composition. Makes me think of Grandma Moses, if if Grandma Moses was looking at UFOs, you're welcome to visit us anytime. Okay, these pieces are all 8 by 10. Acrylic aluminum foil and glitter on panel. A bolt of lightning. 2018. Jean was thrown in jail several times on fictitious charges. Okay. Well, strangely, a lot of interesting outsider art is dealing with outer space, trans-dimensional people or images. This is plasma whiplash. This is 24 by 36. And gosh, I wonder if Esther is from Texas. Seems like they've got kind of a Texas feel to them. I think there's a great classic outsider, Dallas Show, I think was his name, that was working back in the teens and 20s, that did a bunch of works dealing with some kind of extraterrestrial beings. Used a lot of collage work. This is the laser gas ionizer. And yeah, I like her use of the aluminum foils. It's actually kind of interesting. She's got different sheens on that. These are the works of Ionel Talpazan. Okay, we'll start out looking at this one. This is actually a major piece. This is a diagram of the UFO, 1996. Well, Ionel was kind of a local legend in the outsider art scene, and I've been going to the outsider art fair for probably at least 20, 25 years, and on many occasions I would see Ionel outside, maybe on the sidewalk in front of them, especially at the Puck building, I remember, and he would be presenting his own work out there. And then he passed away a couple of years ago, and people kind of realized they missed his presence, and then they started going up and reassessing his oeuvre, and decided that he was actually a major talent. And I believe maybe it was last year, the year before, they had a special memorial display of his work there. This is titled Spiritual Technology, 2015. Well, this is from 2003. "30 by 53 inches. And it doesn't say specifically what the medium is, so I would say it's kind of a mixed media. But you can see that Ionel liked to really grind his pigments, his crayons and color pencil, whatever else he was working. He really liked to grind that into the surface and he'd get a great color body. Some of these are kind of hung in a way that I can't get a very close view of them. And these are all, I think, 22 by 30, maybe a little bigger. And I think Ionel was known for this particular series of spaceships. And I like his use of text. I guess he was Romanian, and the story is that when he was young, maybe in his teens, that like a lot of outsiders, a strange flying craft zapped him with some kind of a blue beam and changed his life. Let's see if we can read some of the text. Developed arts, make a personality, kind of spiritu. Jeez, it's kind of like half Latin. Ionel Talpazan, 1955 to 2015, is perhaps the most well-known of all the artists inspired by this phenomenon. His work was sparked by his own membership in a UFO sighting as a young boy in his native Romania. He rendered this UFO in various guises, some adhering to an illustrational realism, while others were abstract and elaborately patterned like mandalas. Strangely, there's a lot of this that relates to new image painting. Part of it is the way that he treats his surfaces. The other thing is the kind of symmetrical, centrally located figure. And we've got a grouping of works on canvas also here by Paulina Peavy. Oh, this is good. Her dates are 1901 to 1999. Paulina had her first encounter with Lacamo, a UFO, at age 31 during a seance in Long Beach, California. Guided by her spirit muse, Peavy developed a radical cosmology, believing humankind would evolve towards a single-sex species through contact with alien beings. Okay, this piece is Phantasma 30, and this is 24 by 30 inches. I think Andrew had a one-person show of Paulina 3 or 4 years ago, and I was thinking that there was a lot of parallel ideas to the work of Hilma Aufklint. Her abstract works on paper and painting, in particular, depict her visual cosmos in which organic shapes resembling procreative organisms. So she was a university-trained artist and held various jobs, including high school art teacher, naval architectural draftsman, electrical engineering draftsman, and mural painter. Now, I always wonder about these people that are out living in Southern California in the 30s and 40s. Aleister Crowley, I think, had a strange influence on that group of people. Another guy named Jack Pearson, who they've recently made a TV miniseries titled Strange Angel about, I guess, was out there. And I always kind of wonder if there might have been some involvement with the psychedelics. It's titled Phantasma 41, 1980, mixed media on canvas, 24 by 30. I think actually it's interesting how graphic these are. Paulina had a nice kind of sense of composition, and she was very good with her lights against darks. This is Phantasma 39 from the 1980s, so she was probably in her 80s when she completed most of these. Well, I came by here a couple of weeks ago at night, and I peeked through the door as they were installing the show, and I saw a couple of these pieces by Carlin Night, and I decided I was going to have to come back and check this out. This is titled Yaddo Spaceship, number 2. Colored pencil and graphite on paper. And Carla's the youngster in the group. She was born 1958. Her pencil on paper drawings, which refers to as spaceships, resemble schematic diagrams interspersed with letters from a made-up language, an alphabet beyond early understanding. As with Talpazan, the idea for Knight's spaceships goes back to her childhood. Evidently, she got the idea for a lot of these working with a Ouija board. And there's her alphabet. I actually like the schematic layouts and the way these kind of look like some mysterious kind of chart or diagram. This is Yaddo Spaceship number 1, color pencil and graphite on paper, 47 by 37. Well, as I said, the Outsider Art Fair is going to be opening in about a week, and I will definitely be dropping in there. I think I've probably gone to almost all of these for the last 20 or so years, and it's actually the highlight of my year. I look at that as more interesting than something like the Whitney Biennial. Okay, so I like her cross-hatching. This section actually makes me think of Jasper Johns, and I can't help but think that some people might think this is kind of naive or unsophisticated, but as I look at a lot of these works, especially by some of the more contemporary artists, I see that there are a lot of things that would make me think that these people are very aware of the most influential and discussed contemporary art. This is titled Red Spaceship, OX LH2 2018, color pencil and graphite on paper. This is 50 by 90 inches. So we're talking about something that's about 4 by 7.5 feet, something like that. Okay, so she's also using, looks like stamps, date stamps, and there's more of her alphabet. I wonder how many letters she has. There is, like I said, a very kind of formalistic, abstract quality to these that might not be apparent if you're not familiar with artists like Alfred Jensen, and again, maybe Hilma Afklint. James Kalm with a quick after closing time run-through of April 14th, 1561, featuring the work of Ionel Talpazan, Karla Knight, Paulina Peavy, and Esther Pearl Watson here at the Edlin Gallery. You can like this. Share, subscribe, recommend it to your friends. And you can leave your thoughts, ideas, comments, criticisms, and suggestions below. But as we always do at the end, we say, thank you, Kate. All right, thank you. Thank you.